Le Fringe pour moi, c'est... Oh my God.
Le Fringe, pour moi, c'est un espace de liberté totale.
Like it or not, it's the beer tent.
C'est un grand melting pot.
C'est un grand carnaval artistique.
Fringe is a wonderful moment of liberation.
You can explore, you can try, you can fail, you can be challenged, and it's all okay.
C'est le cœur de Montréal. C'est le cœur. The Fringe, c'est le cœur.
An adventure, excitement, and the end, exhaustion.
Un espace de potentialité.
Festif, c'est excessif, c'est too much, puis c'est vraiment un gros party.
La diversité, la créativité, l'audace, la jeunesse et le party!
Le Fringe, c'est un festival essentiel. Bon, c'est tout.
Hello, everyone. How's it going? Happy Monday. Welcome. Bonsoir. My name is Amy Blackmore. I'm the Executive and Artistic Director of Mainline Theatre and the Saint-Ambroise Montreal Fringe Festival. This is your 5 à 6. I'm here enjoying my 5 à 6. It is super hot out, so I hope that if you are inside, you are drinking plenty of water and you have a fan going, like all the things. We installed air conditioning at Mainline today, so if you're coming on Thursday, don't worry. I'm pretty excited that the festival has begun and that we do have our in-person shows starting on Thursday, and I hope that you will join us there. You can find out tons of info at montrealfringe.ca. Before we dive into today's topics and meet all of our amazing folks we're going to speak with, I just want to thank our staff because you are all working so hard, especially today, first day of setup inside of all of our venues. So seriously, just a huge thank you to Steph, our VSM, Kenny, Rebecca, Sarah, Kat, Sehar, Corey, Matthias, Brianna, and our entire tech team who are just rocking it. The transformation sessions would not be possible without the support of so many amazing people, but especially the Quebec Drama Federation, who are officially our partner, our sponsor for this event. But also, you know, we are a charity. We got lots of other people to thank. So here we go. Thank you so much to Canadian Heritage, the Conseil des Arts et Lettres du Québec, Conseil des Arts de Montréal, the Ville de Montréal, Saint-Ambroise, of course, Arts Unite, Elan, the Toronto and Edmonton Fringes for Rockin', the Cole Foundation, the Kitchener-Waterloo Community Foundation, and special this year, the Quebec Secretariat for Anglophone Relations. So again, it takes so many folks to make an incredible festival like the Fringe happen. And I'm just so thankful for all the support and to all of our friends of the Fringe, new or old, that sounds so weird, but new and improved ones. I don't know. If you've donated, thank you is my point. We're trying to raise $30,000 to celebrate 30 years for the Fringe in 30 days. And we're just so thankful for the support. So enough about me. We're not going to pretend everybody is backstage. This is like the weird internet of StreamYard. So Steph, can you just like let people in the room? Let's see who we have. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Sophie.
Hi.
Devin. Great. Amazing. We have a giant group here today, and I'm so excited. I think that right away, let's just do some introductions. If you could take a second to just introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and then we'll dive in because we're going to talk about green art making and what that's all about. Who wants to go first? Let's have Megan go first.
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everyone. So nice to see you. My name is Megan. My pronouns are she, her. I am the interim executive director with Edmonton Fringe. And in my other life, I am an immersive, site-specific, and sound-based independent theater creator. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I hear that it's not super hot in Edmonton today.
No, it's quite chilly today and overcast and rainy.
Oh, no. Darn.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, also in Edmonton, we have Murray.
Hi, Amy. Hi, everybody. So nice to see y'all. My name is Murray. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the artistic director at the Edmonton Fringe. I have been doing the Fringe since 1994 as a performer. I saw my first Fringe in 1989, and the first introduction was just a little duo called Mump and Smoot. And from that moment on, I was like, this is a place for me with all the other weirdos, and I love it.
Welcome. I love that. Nice to have you back. Let's see. Kate.
Sure. Hi. My name is Kate. My pronouns are she, her. I directed a little play called Tomorrow that premiered at the Montreal Fringe in 2019. And it was a mashup remix of Macbeth with following along the theme of climate change.
Great. Thank you so much. And Devin.
Hi, my name is Devin Hardy. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an environmental consultant specializing specifically in the arts sector, and my current project is the adaptation of the creative green tools to the context of the Canadian arts and culture sector.
Amazing. Thank you. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm really excited. And Sophie.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Sophie. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a costume and set designer here in Montreal, focusing mostly on costume, but very happy to be here.
Right on. Well, thank you for being back. Let's just dive in. I'm super excited. We wanted to revisit these topics because a whole year has gone by. First of all, wow, how did that even happen? What happened to this year? Time is relevant. And we kind of wanted to take the temperature, see what's changed, what's happening. I know that maybe I'll just share that when I emailed with some of our folks who are with us today, they were like, well, I still feel the exact same way that I felt last year. I'm not sure what I could add. And it's funny, I think the louder we can be, the better, because I remember, back on September 27th, was it? Whatever year it was, 2019 now, that, the giant march in Montreal, everybody got to see Greta speak. It was a whole thing. And there's so much momentum in this city, and I feel the momentum across Canada when speaking with my CAF friends, like Megan and Murray, and I think we have a responsibility here. So I think maybe just to throw it out there, do you feel that a year later, folks are still talking about the environment the way they were February 2020? It's a big one.
That's a really great question, Amy. I don't know if people are looking at this time and seeing the signs that should help us move forward. The dolphins coming back to the canals for the first time in 60 years. There is stuff that's happening that if we want to look at it, I think is going to guide us. We can either walk in and go, I can't wait to get back to making more shit, or, right? We can actually look at it and go, what is this for us? In the great pause, we went back to the idea of, okay, we're going to go back to the first voice in the land, that when Columbus bumped into the land, you don't find a land that people are already on, by the way. It was we're going to listen to that voice, and we've started a position. We got it going. We wrote a grant anyways, even though everything stopped. We're like, you know what? Let's get this going. And we just hired what we've titled, so the Canada Council would know what it was. It was something, was our director of Indigenous Strategic Planning. Basically, Josh Langdow has come and is going to share with us and guide us as we start to build out the next sort of plans as we go. And we're going to do it as a treaty's intent. We're going to walk side by side, and we're going to figure it out. And that is the water protectors and the earth protectors and all the stuff. So it's if we as settlers can start to step that up and look at it in that, and then as artists that could tell stories to help support it, boom, let's go.
Wow. I love that. It sounds like an incredible project. And I'm wondering, Megan, is this the kind of thing that was it a shot in the dark to Canada Council? I mean, finding funding for this kind of thing? Is it sector innovation and development? Tell us how to get it.
Yeah, I mean, this was a project 5 years in the making. We have been talking about this at Fringe for so long, and so much energy and time and consultation has gone into creating this position. We are very blessed to work with what we call our Circle of Wisdom. They are a group of Indigenous artists and knowledge keepers in our community who have worked really closely with us to help develop this position, but to also talk with us and strategize about what it means for the future. And genuinely, I don't think we can separate the reality of pandemic and social uprising from environmental impact. These are all things that are so interconnected. And so for us, it's been such a gift to engage in that conversation and to think strategically about what it means to serve community. And I know that Josh is going to bring such an incredible wealth of knowledge and care and heart to what we do going forward. And I'm so excited to see, that come to fruition. But it's a long time coming, and we've got a lot of work to do yet.
And Josh is a longtime Fringe artist who's toured the circuit even.
Yeah.
I love it. It's great. I want to say, actually, talking about discussion and the way that we have conversation, that for those of you listening, you can participate in this conversation because I have the power. Look at this. Sarah Grenier-Laforce. Can't wait for this conversation. So excited. Thank you, Sarah. And then we have Kiki here. You can't find a land that was already lived upon. 100%. 100% times 3, is that what you would say if you were to read that as an image? Yes, love it. 100% times 3. Thank you, Kiki. I think that in this great intermission, we've taken time to reflect. I think so many folks have taken time to reflect on many different things about their path trajectory, the trajectory of our organizations. And I have to say, one thing I'm really excited about is the work that Devin, that you've been up to and that you're doing. I had the pleasure of interviewing you about it a couple weeks? No, again, time today is just
months.
A couple months ago.
Yeah.
It was at the QDF a year in, and I think it's still online if you want to go check it out. But Devin, can you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to this year?
Sure, yeah. So the project that I'm working on, and it's in partnership with the QDF, Climatable, and like a whole bunch of partners. And I don't want to try to list them all right now just because there's like upwards of 20. And if I forget one, then I'll feel terrible. But like a bunch of partners that are all on our website. So if you go to our website, you can see all the partners. This project that I'm working on, we are adopting a set of carbon calculation and reporting tools that were created in the UK. They were created by an organization called Julie's Bicycle. They've been in use in some form or another for over a decade there. They've been extremely successful. And they were developed specifically for the arts and culture sector. And so they're really unique in that sense, in that they're tailored to the scope of activities that are very common in arts and culture. So their outcomes have been so good in the UK. We wanted to import the tools here. So I guess it was about 2 years ago now that we started writing grants and trying to bring the tools here. So throughout the pandemic, we were doing a kind of research and consultation phase and speaking to members of the arts and culture sector from across the country. And then we got another round of funding to actually build the platform and plan for the implementation of the tools and do a lot of other really cool stuff to make sure the tools are not only like robust and accurate, but inclusive and accessible. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
It's so great, and I'm so excited that this is a project with a national focus, and I really believe there's going to be a great impact to it. And I'm just wondering, just in a practical sense, for anybody who's not sure, what do you mean by tools? Is it like an online tool? How do I?
Yeah, it's an online platform. So you would go on, you would create an account, and then you would go about creating a footprint. And whichever type of footprint you decide to create, that might be for a building, which could be, you know, an office space, a theater, a museum, or any other type of cultural building. Or it could be a cultural event like a festival, a concert, a tour, a theatrical production, anything that doesn't fall within the scope of the building, kind of. So when you decide which kind of footprint you want to create, it takes you to a page with a bunch of data entry boxes, and then you are prompted to put in your information, and it does a bunch of back-end calculations and gives you a carbon footprint.
Wow, this is so cool. I can't wait to use it. And, you know, I think anybody who's done an environmental impact assessment of their company or attempted to, like, it is really challenging. I think that this tool is going to be used by so many folks. I can't wait for it all to be ready and for us to dive in. I want to say, you know, again, like in a practical sense, like, you know, especially Sophie, for you and Kate, I've been thinking a lot about the kind of art that we're going to see that comes out of the pandemic, or just out of this period of time. And, you know, I don't know if anybody read, like, there's like Beaverton article that came out in August that was saying, like, what did they say? Something about how all the fringe shows on the Canadian circuit next summer were all going to be COVID related. And don't worry, it's not the case at our festival. It's good. But, you know, there's a lot of work about mental health, that kind of thing. You know, Kate, you did a piece, you know, tomorrow that dealt with environmental issues. And Sophie, as a designer, I know that, you know, you're passionate about these kinds of things. But what are you seeing? What are people talking about? It is in the studio.
Well, I know that in the design world, what's been really exciting over the course of this pandemic has been, I just noticed a huge increase in environmentally focused workshops for set and costume designers. I've had the privilege to take one. I'm hoping to take more, but it's really exciting to see just the different tools that you can, as you said, Devin, the different tools and the different ways that you can start thinking about it, like thinking about the environment not as a constraint in your design, but how you can use it to add to the creativity. And so, yeah, that's been really exciting, something that I've noticed this year. I'm hoping.
And where have you been taking these?
Oh, this one was through Ecoseno, which is a really great resource that I've heard a lot about, and I hope to be able to use. I use it a lot less than a lot of designers because it's, I think, more focused on set. But I believe it's a resource where you can look for set pieces and give set pieces, and it's a great resource. And I think that as a costume designer, it's a lot easier to think environmental because you can rent or you can upcycle used clothing. So it's a lot more, I guess, like accessible. Whereas when it comes to set building and storage, I think storage is a big problem. And talking about how resources in our community can be shared, as opposed to people sort of figuring it out themselves and then discarding them individually, as opposed to working together as a unit, I think is something that is being talked about and very, very interesting. And I hope we can move more in that direction.
Right on. Thank you. And Kate.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the conversation when we were creating Tomorrow, because it is a collectively made piece, there was like a charge behind it. Like we wanted people to feel like this sense of immediacy when it came to environmental issues, and like acting now as opposed to, you know, just going home and thinking about it. So I think that's still there. What with Hooks and Crooks, the collective that made Tomorrow together, I think we're focusing a lot more on how we can make the production accessible. I feel like accessibility has been a massive conversation for me during these times. especially because our show is quite in your face if you've seen it. It's very highly interactive. So doing that in a way where it can be experienced by people who are perhaps at home or people who are in person, like having that fluidity in how it can be presented so that people, people don't have as many barriers when it comes to accessing performance. I think for me, that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Not gonna lie, guys. Holy Hannah. It is hot. Like, it is so hot. I don't know if you're feeling it, but I am. That's great. I mean, so, here we are, like June, I almost said June 2020, June 2021. Some of us have projects on the go, things we want to do. I mean, if there was, like, what's something that, an audience member can do? Like, what are some practical things that we can do to get involved? I love the idea of taking workshops, learning more about places like Ecosino. They're doing really great stuff and supporting them, donating to them. I'm just curious, I know for me, flyers is a big thing. Like, I will never accept a flyer ever again. No, thank you. And there are no more flyers at our Fringe, which is very exciting. But yeah, Mary, I see you like nodding your head. You're like, yeah, no flyers.
We had that plan, Amy, and then this thing came along, right?
Yeah. We've had that conversation so many times.
But go ahead.
No, I was just gonna go.
I was just gonna say, I think that the exciting thing is there are responsible ways to print. There are responsible ways to create things, and the stuff that we want to use for our work. But again, it's like, for me personally, I'm often like banging my head against the wall over money. And, there's that good, fast, and cheap triangle. I don't know if you guys know it. Does everyone know it? I'll show you, there's a triangle. It's not a circle. You got good, fast, and cheap. And then you have money, right? And things can be cheap and fast and good. What's the last one? Good and fast. Can't be all three. And it's hard. I'm like, how do I find ways to spend money in a responsible way? How do I prioritize this in my life? And in the work I do at the Fringe, I kind of think that the grant agencies are going to start making this part of the requirement, like asking us, especially cultural events, to include our plans in future applications. But yeah, curious if anyone has any thoughts on that.
Well, when you talked about a simple sort of like, what could we do? The idea of reuse, like, I don't know where it sort of fell out of the way, right? And if I was to challenge the big houses, I would say, you want to build a set? Okay, you can only build that set is if every theater performance in that year can utilize a piece of it and not have to make their own, right? And then build that big old thing, and then we'll all just take chunks of it. But for our audience, the idea of how cool it is, there are so many things that are made already that, like people be like, oh, Murray, you're going against the economy and the basis of it. I'm like, no. That's not even going to put a dent in it. I'm saying that, like, there's stuff to find out there that's already there that needs a new home. If you start to look at your life and build that into it, I think that changes a little bit and starts to flip it a bit,
Yep. We have Stephanie Fromatin here. OMG, sets for the whole season. I love that. And of course.
Yeah. Can I share a fun fact? So I was cleaning out our my little indie theater company. We store a bunch of stuff in a garage, my sister's garage. And we were cleaning it out the other day. We were pulling things out. And one of my production teammates was there, and he's like, did you know that we've reused the same lumber for 3 years in a row? And I was like, Ian, that is magic. And we just had a moment of celebration where we realized that we hadn't purchased a new piece of lumber and that we were reusing the same set pieces over and over again. And I was like, I feel like we need to celebrate this. Also, like, lumber is unbelievably expensive in Alberta right now. I don't know if it's the same everywhere else, but yeah, that idea of reusing things and using them until they deplete, right? Like, we don't need to get rid of things. Yeah.
Totally. And, Devin was the chair of our fundraising committee at Mainline for a number of years and is still on the committee and a member of our board of directors, all the things. But, one thing that I love is that we've kept all the flyers the past, 3-4 years and have been turning them into decorations for events. Right, Devin?
Yes. And I would happen to agree with Marie and Megan, because there are a lot of ways that companies can convince you that you need to buy more stuff to be green, and I think that that's largely unnecessary. And it also doesn't mean that you have to be like a perfect zero waste person tomorrow. I mean, my lifestyle is not zero waste. I try, but I also like the hummus that comes in containers. So that's hard to give up for me. But yeah, I think if more people just kind of ask themselves questions about, do I need this? Can I find something else to serve this purpose? I think that would go a really long way.
For sure. I have a similar mindset in that I became a drama teacher in this pandemic. I teach middle school drama, and I love it. But my students are very keen, and they're always wanting to build these new props and bring these things in for their presentations. And I always say, like, yes, but you should be like, how can this be reused? How can you, take something that you already have? Like, don't focus on making something entirely new, because that's going to take up more of your time. What can you bring in that you already have? And then, how can another group use it? So staying within, like, keeping safe with COVID and health restrictions, but also, like, limiting it, giving something a limit so that it has more uses. It's a small thing, but it works astronomically well.
Yeah, in the workshop that I was taking, we were talking about this exact thing and talking about ways that can happen and thinking about how to build, like, this idea of sharing resources, of having an inventory that lasts for the whole year, and what that means in terms of builds, and like focusing on not cutting lumber into small pieces, so keeping them into as big as pieces as possible. Like no paint, or finding alternatives to color things. So this one theater, they had made a completely green set, and instead of using gray paint, they used they burnt it, and it gave it this like nice charcoaly effect. So they could reuse that. No glue, so putting things together more mechanically, like with screws and limiting the holes. So I think the idea is that it's an investment, and like maybe money has to go into it at first, but then you save a lot of money over the course of the year. Yeah, so I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's really sage. And we're talking about the stuff. I'm wondering about the moving around. I'm wondering if anyone's been thinking about touring and how we feel about that right now, how we feel about touring a fringe circuit, or companies, going across the pond, and even the cultural tourism around that, like as an individual, as an artist, not an artist, an audience member going to another city to see things. I'm just curious if anyone's been thinking about that at all. No, I guess we're not ready to travel yet. That's what it is.
I know I'm not. Hooks and Crooks has had dreams of traveling, and we would love to at some point. But yeah, I just don't think my brain's quite there yet.
That's totally fair. And I wanted to add, I've been listening to various little birdies around, and about these models of trying to encourage companies to tour with multiple productions as a way to reduce their footprint on tour. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe there'll be funding related to that at some point. That would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, if I can just add, this is a topic of conversation that's frequently brought up in my networks. And there has been this question of, will touring be a thing of the past once the pandemic is over? I don't think it will. I think there's a lot of value in in touring art around. You know, I don't think that we can give up meaningful art making and meaningful art sharing, you know, just because it has any environmental footprint. But I do think there will be a lot more thought put into it and a lot more, you know, questions about how folks get around. And, you know, one of the conversations coming up a lot in the pandemic is like, you know, the issue of rest and time and how we think about productivity. And so this culture that makes us think like you have to be constantly going and minimizing your travel time between everything so that you can be maximizing your productive hours, or else you're a garbage person who doesn't contribute to society, is going to be a thing of the past. I hope. God, I hope. So, you know, maybe taking a train all the way across the continent and taking a lot longer to get somewhere, but having a much lower footprint and having an experience on the way will become more normal because we don't have to go from thing to thing to thing to feel like we're getting anything done.
I really like that. And the idea of the add-on, right? So if an artist is coming around or a group of artists are coming around, talk to your community. Can you keep them around? Can they do other things? Are there other ways to share that time so that it's not just a blow in, go to the next city, like you're saying? It's more, you know, it's like what allows for growth? Is there even growth for them? Can they go and study somewhere and really entrench themselves and leave something behind when they go, right? That isn't just come and perform for us and we got a rock show the next night. It's like, I think that's the one where it's pack up all the trucks and go, pack up all the trucks and go, right? Like, it's like, we got to start thinking about that, especially at our level. I think there's more that we could really, it would be beautiful to have an artist from abroad spend a year in your community or something bizarre like that. I don't know, like.
I love that idea. It's really interesting. There's something to it. Yeah, absolutely. You know, are there any other lessons that we feel, you know, I'm kind of wrapped up in this idea, Devin, of like slowing down and taking time these days. And I think it's really thoughtful to relate it to some of the possible future solutions. And I guess I'm kind of wondering, you know, like even just a little farther away from our topic, but it's like, you know, what has been occupying your mind these days when it comes to the arts and when it comes to lessons you want to bring beyond? I'm kind of curious to know.
So many things. I want to go back to certainly thinking about the gap that is going to exist on the other side of this pandemic. I think we will see a sincere gap in skilled labor. I think we will see people who have left our industry for more sustainable, slower life choices, all of those things. So that is something that does keep me up at night. I'm thinking a lot, Kate, you said it earlier, about the accessibility lessons we've learned this year. You know, when we launched Fringe TV 15 months ago, we had no idea the impact it would have on our community and the way it would allow us to connect with community members who haven't, for whatever reason, been able to attend the festival in person over the last few years. And we heard a lot from people who said, thank you for creating an opportunity for me to still engage without, you know, leaving my home. And so I'm thinking about what it means to continue offering that kind of programming going forward. Two, I think about, you know, what we've learned this year. We opened our Fringe Grounds Cafe at the beginning of a pandemic, which was a wild choice. But we've also we've planted edible gardens in our patio space, and we're growing the herbs that we use in our cafe, and our staff are starting to think about, you know, our composting program and what does it mean to really feed the community, and what does that look like when we can open our doors again. And there's such a community mindedness that has come out of this last year that I think is going to change how we return to making theater. And that's something that is making me so excited for the future of what our industry can do.
Thanks for sharing that.
I'm hoping that that more communication can happen and that is more environmentally focused, because I think that there's a lot to be gained through like this idea of sharing resources, and I think a lot of it doesn't happen because people don't know what's available at the right time. Like in my head, I imagine that it would be great to have like twice a year a meeting with, you know, big professional theater houses in town, as well as independent companies, as well as even, you know, smaller startup companies, talk about the kind of shows that they're doing and seeing how their sets within a time frame or their costumes or whatever could be shared from one show and move on to the next. So something that I experienced this year was I worked on a show with Talisman earlier on, or later in 2020, and they used a lot of paper, which was, you know, it was a medium that could be recycled. So that was one thing, but it was a lot. In every show, it was torn apart and had to be discarded. So there were rolls of paper being used, and there was just talk about what do you do with it at the end, and I so happened to have a show coming up, and I had no money, no resources, and no idea what to do for it. And so in the end, I thought, oh, there's an opportunity here for me to take that paper and make something out of it, because it was the right time, and I heard of it. So I think if there is that level of communication that can happen between different companies, that could be an interesting gain for us all and for the environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I just want to share some notes that I see here. Quebec Drama Federation. I wonder who it is. Someone at QDF. So inspired by these incredible ideas and initiatives. And then Sarah with another comment just about earlier, trying to fight the reflex or going to the stores to get new things when there's 100% chance someone you know is trying to get rid of the exact same thing. I've personally become a little more of a trader. No. Did I say trader? I don't mean like trader. Like, I mean trader. Like I trade things since the past year. And it's true. Like there's so much stuff out there that you can find. Devin, I feel like you were about to jump on something before I shared those two. Were you or? Oh
no.
Okay, we have a cat. A mystery staff member, I'm sure. I think we know who the mystery QDF staff member is. Sorry, I had to call you out. I think, you know, I'm really appreciating hearing about this kind of multi-pronged approach to a certain extent, right? Like one thing does ultimately lead into the other, like intersectionality, you know, exists. And I'm inspired to hear that everyone is having thoughts that are doing a lot of this right now. You know, it's like, okay, we need to let's grow the company and have a restaurant. Oh, but wait, let's make a garden. And wait a second, how do we communicate with the community on this? And how can we give to them? And how is this? It's just really lovely, guys. I just wanted to say that. I think it's really neat. You know, moving forward, what are some other lessons I think that we want to bring, aside from all the gardening that I'm sure everybody's been doing this past year as well? I'd love to see bees on the roof of Mainline, just to say. Sorry, go ahead, Greg.
Celebrate process. You know, if universal basic income would really work, but the idea of the gig is not like a hot 5 weeks. Like it's literally, if we could build in, and Devin, I'm going to keep coming back to the slowdown because I'm so into it. I really, in my heart, went, oh, can we come out of this kinder and just slow it down a little bit and really dig into having time to think about things and really give them thought, you know? Like the teachings that are shared all the time, if you think about it, everything, think about 7 years back, 7 years forward, right? Put that into each of your thoughts as you start to walk down this path and go, how does that influence the decision I'm looking at making, right? I'm in a new apartment as a sort of self-care because it's got so much light and stuff, and bringing stuff into it. I went after, I want a piano, but then I went, wait a minute, there has to have been somebody in this world that made a table that is also a piano. And sure enough, there is. So now I'm on the hunt to find one and go and get it.
It's Murray having his breakfast toast, playing a song, you know, as you do.
That's so great.
Yeah, I think a lot about how these like rampant capitalistic forces that force us to be like constantly moving, constantly producing, constantly doing and buying and going and just like constantly on the move. I mean, those are the same forces that have created the climate crisis. So, you know, I haven't, environment hasn't been quite as much of a topic that I've heard people talk about in general throughout the pandemic. I mean, it's my job, so I talk about it all the time, but you know, it hasn't been quite as much a topic of conversation explicitly, but people are starting to talk about like this recovery where that lifestyle, that like rat race is not a thing anymore. So the two really go hand in hand. It's like we live in a society where taking time off just for the sake of time off is like a radical act, and like not being connected to your email and smartphone for hours at a time is a radical act, and like growing your own food is a radical act. So, you know, all of these forces that are pushing for universal basic income and just like a more human, inclusive, loving way of living, they're all the same forces that are ultimately, if we're going to get out of this, that are going to get us out of this.
Well said. Thank you. Candice truly has a question. Okay, we're getting practical. What is the one thing you wished everyone would start doing right now, like immediately, to help with the climate change? Right now. That's a tough one.
God, I never go small. Plastic. It needs to go away.
Yeah.
Stop buying new.
Stop buying new.
Bottled water is a real pet peeve of mine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my hometown is on the aquifer one of the aquifers that Nestle pumps from. So I've always been very like anti-bottled water. But that's we got these beautiful things, you know?
I'm wholly anti Nestle as well.
Yes.
Middle finger to Nestle. Like I hope you're watching, Nestle.
I gotta say the bottled water thing. I remember back in like 2012 or 2011, one of my first years producing The Fringe, and we had like a green team get together, and we were like, I think one of the big recommendations that was said was, let's ban bottled water at the park at The Fringe. I was like, I don't know if we can actually do that. Like, what would people think if we didn't have bottled water? And then like we all slept on it and came back the next day and realized how silly we were and how easy it was to do. But I think, you know, it just goes back to what you're saying, Murray, like look back 7 years and then look 7 years ahead. Like a lot has, I think our collective knowledge has certainly grown, you know? And I think it's exciting. I think as festivals, we have a responsibility to help encourage our artists, the community, our new version of the Green Team at Mainline. We have an environmental committee led by Devin that has just created a really wicked document that we're sharing with our artists about practices that they can do. Actually, Devin, could you share a little bit about what's in that doc?
Sure. I mean, it's like a living document. We made the decision not to just like create a guide and make that like what everybody should follow. But basically, the committee just kind of put together a bunch of resources, links, recommendations, things like that in a variety of different topics like sustainable transportation, sustainable theater production, sustainable eating, things like that. And we just added a bunch of like links and stuff. It's a Google Doc. You can look at it. It's not huge, but add to it if you have ideas, and then that would be a great thing for everybody. I'm way into like collaborative creation because a small number of people don't have all of the knowledge or all the ideas. So we hope that people will add.
Yeah, collective knowledge, absolutely. I mean, and that's what being here today is about, sharing some of our collective knowledge together and figuring this out. I think there's a lot more work to do, and we do have a couple more comments. So I do want to read some of them here. Stephanie Fromatin, who's also a member of our board of directors. Hello. Woot, Environmental Committee.
Yeah.
And Kenny, yes, totally. Plastic is the worst. Yes, thank you. But he does have one other question, so we're going to read that as well. Talking about the new items and avoiding them, how do we encourage that behavior? Because it's so easy just to buy new things. Is it just correcting yourself when you do it?
I think it's like, I mean, I often think like when people are addicted to things like cigarettes, for example, there's this idea that every time you do it, you kind of tell yourself how bad it is, and then eventually you train your brain to just stop. I don't know if that's a very idealistic thing, but for me, every time I use something that's plastic, I think about the fact that, like, for example, a bottled water, I open a bottle, I drink it, and it's all gone in a minute, and this bottle is on this planet for hundreds of years. And I think if you train your brain to remind yourself that that is true for every single person on this planet, eventually you might train yourself to think like that, or think about the source when you're buying something.
Yeah. How do we feel about calling people out? It's, I'm just curious, like I went to an event and they invited Dominique Champagne, who is this really, he's a Quebecois director and artist who's retired and devoting the rest of his life to fighting climate change in a really large scale. And I saw him speak at an event with there were a lot of important people in attendance at this event. I was lucky to be in the room. And I just remember looking down at the stage and I was like, I can't believe they've put 2 giant bottles of plastic Nestle water bottles for this guy, out. And I just kind of and he didn't say anything, because he was just so focused on presenting, but I kind of wanted to write an angry letter. And it's are people still doing that? Do we still need to write angry letters? Or, I don't know. I'm curious.
I think jumping on that, Amy, I think the responsible use of power needs to come in here. We need to start to realize that we do have that it's it doesn't matter what I say or think. There's nothing that I can do to help change. I think changing that narrative in us, really engaging, Kate with the youth, talking to the youth, right? Really letting them in because they're sponges. They'll be like, wait a minute, what? I think that's amazing. And then watch that go out, just changing the narrative and to start changing that narrative, finding the little ways in. So I've always been a fan of the soft sell versus the hard sell, right? And the hard sell, that's where everybody goes all the time. But in that soft sell, it's like we say, calling someone out, but almost like the kind correction. If we can find the nuance of the kind correction, and so somebody maybe thinks about it the next time, and then maybe they're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh shit, right. Maybe I don't need, hold on a minute. Wait a minute. Just give that moment of pause, something to allow for the moment of pause that could help bring about the change.
Yeah, I think calling out companies, governments, institutions that have power is really important. I really prefer to see the attention shifted away from the individual. because we hear these narratives like, you know, it's you can stop climate change, and it's like, I can't. No, you know, me like not buying bottled water. I haven't been buying bottled water for like a decade, and that's not going to stop climate change. We still have like massive institutions that are like creating just horrible waste and emissions and pollution.
Mm-hmm.
So shifting the focus back to the companies that can actually do things and are doing things, like bad things, is really important.
Yeah, don't show me you're progressive in a social media post. Do fucking something. Like, change. Make a change.
Absolutely. Well, any last thoughts that were like burning inside of you? You were like, this was the one thing that I really wanted to share today when I thought about coming here today. It's okay. Nobody ever does whenever I ask that question, yet I always do.
Thanks for making the conversation happen.
Of course.
Thank you.
Devin, for the work you do, like all of it, like let's just more and more and more, because once we start multiplying, you know, I liken, yes, everyone. I liken my role at the Fringe that I'm like, you know, I'm like, everybody's like, the old white guy should get out of the way. And I'm like, what I feel like my journey is right now is that I'm the absorption of the shit that's still out in the world. And I'm going to hold that up and stay there holding it up as the building is going on here until there's so much of this that nothing no longer needs to be held up. Just step out of the way and there's nothing can be done about it. So let's start building and making that change that actually is there for real.
Right on. I think on that note, thank you, Murray. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to read one last comment from the wonderful Kat Preston. I like the term calling people instead of calling people out. I often find that calling people, if we frame it in that way, then we're inviting people into the work instead of initiating a defensive response. I personally find I've gotten much more fruitful results. Absolutely.
So well said.
It is so well said. I appreciate it. This conversation is going to continue. You know, we had it last year. We didn't wait an entire year before having it again. It's just we haven't seen each other in a little while, but we're going to keep working. We're going to keep talking. The Montreal Fringe, we're working on a pandemic Fringe manifesto. It's going to have some of our plans in there, and I can't wait to share it with everyone. I do want to say we will have more topics of conversation this week before all the shows open. Tomorrow night, 5 à 6, we have Work-Life Balance en français with Stephanie Fromentin, Kakim Go, and Kathleen Aubert. And then on Wednesday, we're doing a mishmash of French and English. It'll be totally bilingual, very Montreal. Conversation about the future of art dissemination with it's an incredible group. We've got Mike Payette, Vincent from the OFTA, Lucy from the Toronto Fringe, Sarah Grenier-Laforce from our team. I'm excited to have her, and Patrick Lloyd-Brennan. So we're really excited to have those conversations and to see where they go from there. But thank you so much, Megan, Murray, Sophie, Devin, and Kate. Let us know what you're up to. We want to share with the world and share your plans. So we'll see you soon, everyone. Stay cool. Nice and cool. Bye.